Right, we open here. We should see a fold from Ron. We should see a defend from Gary. It's going to start probably small c-bet, I think, aren't we?
Check.
40k looks it's not the worst. I think it's reason why. I start betting. We can barrel and start pressurizing the 7 on a bunch of turns. We keep ourselves uncapped.
I think I've checked
Yeah.
because of the 4 spades. A lot of the time, if I'm going to check with a hand that I think can check, but usually bets, I usually use my suits. So if I'm checking this board, it's because I don't have 2 of the suits on the board. Let's quickly check the chip EV for 35 bigs.
Wow, there he is. I would have definitely overstabbed that. I'd have thought like 9s and 8s and even 6s would just seem like much better ones. I mean, can you just bet 20% a second, show us the continue range?
But yeah, as the button, I don't tend to see bet as often because obviously we have the widest range and I'm going to have an even wider range here. But because it's ICM, he's going to overfold, he's going to underdefend. So there's kind of a lot of variables at play that if you just want to range bet this spot for 20%, I don't think that's going to be a losing play. Obviously 4s, once it's indifferent, you can go either way. The suits that I've chose here aren't the same as the suits we've got. The suit that's not on the board, so in this case, diamond, spade, heart, club, 4 clubs is the bad 4. And the reason for that is if the turn starts a flush draw, I never interact with it. For example, if it comes heart, heart, one of those hearts might be a 4, right? And a flush could get there when my set gets there. So it's only a small thing, but if I have 2 suits on the board, at least the times that I hit a set, it's less likely I'm going to hit a set when there's also a flush on the board. If I hit the Badoogie 4, well, my set is the super nuts on any run out, if that makes sense. So it's just a nicer out to have.
No, that's very, very fair point. One thing I will say, though, is if you go back to the response from B20 from the big blind, he's just not fighting this hard, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not. So, like Jack 3 suited, almost a pure continue, and we'll be with a backdoor, right? People aren't fighting this hard. Jack 3, like fucking 9-3 and 9 deuce suited, mixing a bunch of check raise, every fucking king with a backdoor continuing. Like, honestly, like people here that aren't even thinking about continuing king 6, you know?
Yeah. He will overfold pre too, so some of these auto folds that we benefit from will have folded pre. But I do agree he's not going to check raise enough, so we should bet more in a hand that is vulnerable and can just win now. He's going to benefit from betting more, but he's also going to let me get to showdown more, so he's not going to bluff me as often. There is again a lot of variables at play. I think if I'd have bet 20% here, I definitely wouldn't have thought twice about it. Check in, not the end of the world either, if you want to have a check-in range. And very nicely, I've somehow found a check that in a spot where a bet would not have got through. Again, on the turn, I think I could start bluffing.
Quite tricky, this Gary guy, isn't he, out of the big blind?
I noticed him, he snap checked with that when he had trip kings in the spot earlier, and I think he checked very quickly on the turn here. It's only a subtle thing. I think this is something, you see he looks away, like check and look away. I don't want to get too into it, but I think it's quite a useful towel, and I almost don't want to say it out loud in case people start doing it against me balance. If someone looks really disinterested and checks, almost ask yourself why. Why do they look so disinterested? What, like if they've got a 7, they don't want to look disinterested here. They don't want to incentivize bets by just looking like they're not interested in the hand. So it's either like, yeah, sometimes they do have complete air. I don't know, king 2, they're completely done with the hand. Well, even king 2's got something, or like a hand that's complete nothing. But it's hard to have completely nothing, especially on a board disconnected, unless it's like what 5-3 of spades. So I think it is just worth thinking about. If someone checks and looks really disinterested, is it real disinterest?
Probably polar, right?
Yeah, it's a polarized thing, and I guess pocket 4s is actually ahead or way behind against that.
You've got tons of stuff that has to continue the turn, and he's got tons of bluffs. He blocks 2 of the pairs. So what are you putting money in with on the turn, right? Like when he checks, I think he just wants to bet now and pressurize your, ace highs. You have turned some flush draws. You've got a bunch of 10x. You've got pocket 6s and 8s. I think he just wants to bet for himself there.
Thin as a check raise is the only thing.
It's like, is it even the best check raise? I think you just want to put money in now. And look, also rivers like this can roll off.
I mean, if he did bet the turn and I call and this is the river, it's almost a worse spot. But I think it's more that if your hand isn't good enough to check raise, and Queen 9 is right on the fence there, where I probably do bet King Jack and Jack 8 a lot on the flop. Not pure, I guess, if I have a check-in range. If you check raise, bet river, get jammed on, or you check raise, get this horrible turn. A lot of bad things can happen too. So I think I would just bet myself and just go bet, have a decent amount of bluffs, like you're saying, some straight draws, have some flush draws, and then it's nice to have a hand that's this strong too. Obviously, any queen is almost nutted in this spot, but this hand is super nutted because you're not even worried if I've got worse 2 pairs on the turn and stuff like that. I think I would mainly bet 2. I mean, if he checks and I bet small, he can then put it in the check raise or have like some deception on some boat rivers. How do I not bluff this river?
I assume now, I was going to say, I didn't know what the river action was. The river, this is really interesting.
I must have been really in the zone to not bluff this river, because it would hurt me to not bluff this river and not go after like a 10, a 7, even like a jack.
I think your hand's a pretty good bluff, right? So a couple of reasons why. It might appear that, oh, well, what about all the ace high? But a lot of that ace high is probably going to bet the flop, right? Especially the weak ones. So the ace deuce, ace 3, ace 4, ace 5 are probably going to bet the flop a bunch. And then, ace 8, ace king are now straight. We need to make a 7 or a 10 or a 9 fold. I think this is actually a really clean bluff. If you get to the
I
river
agree.
with ace deuce, obviously we bluff it first. But I think this is a good bluff. Just going like something like pot and ripping straight or better. I also think the other thing, the added advantage as well, is that people kind of put money in themselves with a king a lot. I think here. I don't think people protect their range as much when they check the river. So he'll be like more cat than he's supposed to be. So yeah, I think just like betting some pot on the river to pressurize those pairs is pretty clean. But you at least were thinking about, if not had just picked up on that disinterestedness, especially after seeing the king 3 earlier. So yeah, kudos. I think you've just found yourself a clean one and saved yourself 5 or 6 big ones.
I must have had a read in this hand because there's no other way that I don't bluff the river. Just knowing the way that I would have thought about the spot, I know I would have pure bluff with everything worse than a 7 there, to be honest, if I got to the river that way. I wish that I could tell you more about what I was thinking in game. Other than the disinterest, I can't directly say why I checked there, but I must have thought he was calling. Oh, this hand is ridiculous. So ridiculous. You got to watch this.
Ron's limp.
Pocket eights, I think I'd pure just raise. It's a really strong hand. King Jack, now facing 2 limps, is, I'd say, just a raise. King 10 would probably check. King Queen would always raise. King Jack, probably raise. Pretty big size. 6x. Maybe you can just go 5x, but 6x, I guess, not the end of the world. The ranges are pretty weak, right? Open limp the button, limp the small. Obviously, we can see pocket eights as a hand that can call this size, but usually the small blind's pretty much dead money.
Yeah, I think probably 5x. I don't even mind, by the way. Oh my god, what? I don't even mind. I don't even mind checking King Jack, by the way. I think it's that you're in a blendy spot if something like this happens. I was actually going to say, if I was Gary, I think against Lauren, I would just jam, especially with this massive 6x. Ron plays limp 3-bet, which is absolutely bananas. I mean, it's easy to see this now, but I don't know about you. Ron's not been limping. So when he then limps the first time and raises, it's ultra suspicious. I say this is either aces, kings, or just a bluff. I don't think he's going to limp raise queens, jacks, even ace, king. I think he just raises those first time round. And in hindsight, his cards, I reckon he just wasn't. I just reckon he's just gone, right, I call because I want to see a flop with 6-4. And now he's just decided, right, no, fuck this guy. I'm going to put him in the blender because he's raising too much. I don't think this is like, I don't know if this is ever value, honestly. Lawrence now in the absolute bin, but maybe he figures it out and sticks it all in. Wouldn't surprise me. He's obviously not, like, because he's definitely not scared of getting it wrong. I reckon he jams. Yeah, I told you.
What a beast. What a beast.
I do it. I could just tell.
That's a 6-6 jam.
So I'd probably check back there and win or lose a small pot. Laurent wins like 17 big spree or something.
Yeah, this is what I mean. Like, obviously, we had some negative things to say about the 10-5 off and some other stuff, but look at this hand. Like, I'm never winning at this spot in this way in my entire life, but he's just soul read the button here.
He's not afraid to put his money in and get it wrong, you know, and he does seem to be deep a bunch. So yeah, I mean, that is the cojones on it. I'd probably need an ace, to be honest, but fair fucking play.
Yeah, and when someone limps and then re-raises, you've got to have a really good read there. He must have been 100% on his read to go with that spot. So kudos for going through with it, especially 13 left in a big field tournament. Fortunately, pocket eights just squeezed out. This hand could have gone so many different ways. Instead, we see limp, raise, 3-bet, fold, 4-bet jam.
Wild. Standard open, obviously, with 6s. I think you should peel or make it small. Alarm bells would be ringing, I think. Yeah, especially if this guy's played previously, but I'd probably just try and flip a 6 still with the mystery bounty.
It's literally like, okay, he's got aces or kings. Am I getting the right price to try and flop a 6, knowing that I'm going to always stack him?
I think I would call because it's a bounty, but I'd fold in a vanilla tournament, always.
Look at the body language. Look how comfortable he looks. I can't remember what I said to him, but he's almost like laughing. Like, he is laughing. It's just ridiculously comfortable. I think I would have said I'm like 99.9% sure he has aces at this point. If it comes like 2-2-2, I'm still going to check fold. Well, if I flop an open ender, I guess it gets a bit awkward, but then we just have to run it. 80 to win 355, but really it's to win the whole stack, but only the times I flop the set. And he doesn't flop the bigger set. If it comes like a6x, I'm going to cry.
Exactly. Well, I'm surprised you didn't flop it. Does he have it in him to check? That's the question.
That's the thing too. Sometimes people do check with ace, and like his aces feels like it's an option, right? If he gives me like a good price, I'm going to turn set mine.
You probably just bet small. Well, what size did you choose? 175. Oh no. Yeah, I think probably for the same reasons you I call, but in a vanilla I'd turbo fold. Okay, Laurent will definitely be opening this one.
Yeah, we know he's opening this. He's got some more chips now as well. Round 2. Oh, this is a fascinating hand as well. You'll enjoy this.
So yeah, looks pretty normal so far. Okay, so interesting spot. Well, I like the slight size up. Think we could even go larger. Ron with a standard call. Wow, it's a really interesting turn. Oh, Ron's going to come out, is he? Did he put him all in?
He's bet over half his stack.
Oh my fucking god! I think the way Ron's played, we can't fold this, but it's sick. We just jam, I think, and run it. But I'd be sick to my stomach in game. But I'd also be sat there, I think, like, why the fuck would he do this with Queen 10 or the straight? Like, Jack 9's
you're
a
more
real
scared
concern.
of turn 2 pairs, I guess. But you can't fold this hand, especially not against Ron. Like 5x of hearts, we can see. Like, I mean, the hand he's got, you wouldn't expect because it's pretty weak on this board.
We've seen him limp free, but we've seen, like, I know we haven't seen all the hands. But we've seen him do some stuff that is pretty wild now, you know. So we just can't fold. We don't love it, but we can't fold. He could even have a hand like Jack 10 that does this. The problem is you're not battering anything. I mean, this is as good as it can be, right? 74%. So we're loving it.
6-pot, if you have like pocket kings with like a king of spades, it's such a grim spot.
I still don't know if I can fold again.
Right. He's effectively jammed for like 2 times pot, right?
Yeah, great. Queen Jack. Yeah. Just going to run it off on there. Ron's just less bothered. Just trying to get there. Pretty sick if he does gutter this out. Like, I'd feel a bit for Laurent here because this is quite wild. No. Onto this hand, I think we can.
He limps 30k. I make it 100k, and he calls. If I had to guess, he's got 700k.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a reasonable one. I'd probably be more likely to use Jack Deuce, Jack 4, Jack 3 first, but Jack 6 off is going to be absolutely fine.
Could bet like 20% pot and achieve a lot.
Yeah, we can do that as well. Like I say, I think you'll see like these boards aren't as range betty as people think though in the ISO line because he's like got quite good density around this board because a lot of his offsuit combos are like he has the Jack 10, Jack 9, Queen Jack, Queen 9, King 9, you know, stuff like this. So he will have a lot of continues naturally. But anyway, yeah, it's going to be fine here, of course, quarter pot just to get him to fold ace 4 of spades. Sometimes wow. Oh, wow. I'm very surprised. Okay. Well, then, in which case, obviously, this is a fantastic, way more efficient than I realized bet. I would never fold a gut shot here. Obviously, it's just to continue. You beat bluff. You know, you've got 7 outs to a pretty damn strong hand, 4 outs to basically the nuts. You're not just going to bluff every turn here, right? Like, sometimes Queen High will win. Yeah, this is way too tight, in my opinion. Like, it's almost to the point where if you're going to call Queen 9 pre, you might as well fold it pre if you're not going to float this flop, in my opinion. So you're just pair mining at this point. Call this flop.
That was going to be my point. If you limp call the Queen 9 because you're ahead of some hands, you have some showdown, you dominate maybe my 9-2, maybe my Queen 2, some of my bluffs. So this hand can kind of hold its own even against 3.5 or 3.3 X-rays out of position, which is, it's a lot to put in. In a situation like this, you have to check call the flop. And if you're not check calling a flop like this, then you're going to be kind of ran over too much post flop. I think it is probably better to fold pre if you're not holding on a board where you've got sometimes the best hand and at least a lot of ways to improve.
I think also as well, this is a point to say, like, when you see a fold like that, which obviously I exclaimed a bit louder probably than maybe I should have. This is what I'm talking about when I say, when we look at these sims and we look at stuff and I say people don't fight hard enough. Like, that's a very, very, very clean, comfortable call. So when we're talking about these Jack 3 suited backdoors on Queen 10-7 from the big blind, people just aren't finding these. You know, people just are overfolding and they're not studied. You know, they're deep in a tournament here with 12 left. There's a lot of money to first, and I get it. That's why he's obviously folded here, right? I'm sure Lawrence isn't folding that if we're 100 left in the tournament, right? He'd just call the flop, of course, because we're in an ICM heavy environment. There's a lot of money flying about. That you see people make these big folds. Anyway, we get 9s and it looks like we're about less than 30 effective, right? It's annoying. I don't know the stacks here, but it looks like we're free betting or jamming.
He's got about 1 million, which is 33 bigs, and the button actually has like 700 to 800k ish, 25 bigs ish. So I just jam the 9s.
I think if it's like Laurent, I think I'm inducing here probably. Give him a chance to rip hands like this in 5 suited, but I think against a lot of people, we're fine just shoving probably. He'll call 7s and 8s, and we get protection from Queen 10 off and get loads of those hands. So I don't think Lawrence seems like the player type that would be slamming in this ace-5 suited versus like a 3x 3-bet or something. Again, no, let's have a look actually. Yeah, I think late versus late. I think this probably will induce it. It was 30 effective. No, maybe it's 10 still. I'm actually intrigued.
27, 33, and then 30.
Okay, yeah, go on. This is reasonable too. What's the EV of 9s to induce? It's very close. Yeah, you can definitely induce in my opinion.
Yeah, I do that sometimes. Against more passive opponents, I'd rather have a cleaner way. If I free bet and they jam, and I mean, a good thing with free bet is now the times the big blind finds a hand, maybe I can get away. Yeah, if the button isn't jamming some of these suited aces, some of these small pairs, some of these suited broadways, some of these offsuit broadways, then suddenly my free bet call with a hand like 8s is going to quickly not become so great. Jam is kind of clean, and like picking up the money in the pot now is just nice. If he calls with 8s, that's great. If he folds 8s, he's probably folding good hands that have good equity up here too. So if he wants to fold ace jack suited, that's fine.
Not sure how much Lawrence has got, but I think that this is the kind of spot again that players sometimes I see get wrong. You just want to be way more block orientated here. If I'm right, Lawrence has got about 20 big blinds here. I think fours are just an open fold personally, starting with like maybe sixes to raise.
Yeah, 20 to 30 bigs, even in the cutoff, pocket fours, not the best hand. I think I would just fold, especially covered by people after.
Yeah, and bounty, right? You're going to just find V-pips that, like even when you V-pip your 6, 5, 7, 6 suited here, right? Like 7s and 8s are crashing those 4s. And I think with the stacks now, I think we just have to raise commit to him, don't we?
So this is
a
completely different spot to last hand because one, I'm in position. So if I free bet and he calls, it's a good proposition for me where I get to play post flop in position. Two, he's going to have more reason to 4-bet jam instead of flat because he's out of position. So if I free bet, he looks down at ace-5 suited, he can't call and take a flop in position. He can only play out of position, so he's going to play more jam or fold. And three, Laurenk is in the hand and he covers me. So I don't want to obviously just jam 50 bigs effective here. I would never have an all-in range here. I would flat sometimes, and I would free bet to call off mostly, which I think is what I'm probably going to do. And like 8s is probably more cuspy, where if he's got less than 20, I can free bet call. If he's got like 25 plus, it gets a bit dicey. If I had to guess here, I'd say he's got like 600 to 700k, 20 to 25 bigs. As soon as people have less than 25 bigs, you don't want to free bet too big because you don't want to price yourself in versus a jam. You still want to be more polarized and have folds against the jam, or otherwise they're never going to bluff jam.
And I think that, again, we see Lawrence, ironically against Lawrence, I don't know how well we're doing once he 4-bet jams, because we've seen a couple of spots where he's been a little bit tight. But I think that, again, like pocket fours against like a balanced range there is going to be quite decent as a jam. You get called by ace, queen, ace, jack, ace, queen, ace, king, maybe even ace, jack, suited, and you flip. You're not going to free bet call 6s and 7s. You're going to have like ace 8 off and stuff as your bluffs. So
yeah, I think it's a reasonable jam candidate, pocket fours there, if I'm bluffing a lot. But it is a bounty, and I'm priced in more, so I'm probably going to be a bit more linear than usual.
I think you're more. That's what I was about to say. I think you are more linear because it's a bounty though. But it is interesting to some. I feel like in theory, in a vanilla tournament, fours would probably be getting slammed in if they'd opened. Again, ironically, I don't know whether they would have opened, and that's another thing as well, right? Like fours. You sort of open your fours there, and then you get 3-bet. And you don't really know what to do with it. It's not even like you're playing a 4-bet jam of it, which, in my opinion, again, is going to take away a bit of the EV of the fours, right?
You have to bluff them down the streets a lot too, the small pairs. So if you're not playing aggressively enough post flop, it's probably not going to be a good open.
Laurent doing what he likes to do.
Yep, that's the end of leading up to the final table, I guess. Just after that hand, we had 12 people left. We swapped feature tables, so I was on the other table playing down to the final 9. You can see the final 9 players here. I did have a lot of big pots against Laurenk on the other table, which is unfortunate that it wasn't streamed. This is the stacks to start the final table. I'm second in chips. Ty is big chip leader. He is a good live player. I've played with him for years. Got a good range of stacks here, so next time we'll come back and review the final table.
Hope everybody enjoyed. Any questions, any thoughts? If you disagree with us, shoot some comments over and we'll do our best to get back to them. And see you next time, guys.
Links in the description as always. Like, comment, share, all the good stuff, and thanks for watching.